Hello everyone, my name is Isaac. Welcome to Adrenaline GT GT3 Championship. This is round 4 here at the Nurburgring. As always, I'm joined by Chris to bring you all the lobby action today. And Chris, this is the one we've been looking forward to. It is almost torrential rain and complete wet track around Nurburgring. This one's going to be exciting.
Oh, absolutely, Isaac. Thanks again for having me once again, mate, here for round 4. Yes, the track is absolutely soaked. Top to bottom, left to right here, there is absolutely no dry lines whatsoever, so we won't be seeing any tyre wear, but what we will be seeing is everyone pulling out all the strings here to keep the car on track and try to go fast. Sometimes that doesn't go hand in hand here, but yeah, really looking forward to this one. We do have a massive disparity in cars, and yeah, driving fast in the wet is yeah, completely different to the dry runners, so we're going to have to see. Who knows, we might see the order get shuffled around a bit here for this one.
Yeah, no, 100%. Speaking of the shuffle around order, let's jump into quali. We got Isaac Fogg coming off the pole in this one. The Mercedes proving fairly strong in the wet throughout practice and throughout quali in this one. Porsche GT in second. Irish Rebel in the second Mercedes coming out of third. OGR Stealth in the Jaguar, he's fourth. Al Dustin fifth. Maverick sixth in that classic looking Supra. BMF Pirate in the Corvette is up there in 7th, and Rusty Boy in 8th in the other Mercedes AMG. Got Icer Energy in 9th, CL5 Grim Death 10th, Mr. Awesome 11th, Axaga 12th, and Alba in the BMW coming out of last. So a fairly mixed around grid, some names up and down the order that we wouldn't typically see in certain spots. So it's definitely, the rain has certainly mixed up the grid this week, Chris.
Oh, absolutely, Isaac. I'm not wrong about that, mate. And we'll have to keep an eye on this for lap times and overall pace here because of the nature of the race this week. Don't count out to see these Lobby B and Lobby C guys to potentially make some big leaps on the Lobby A guys when the overall leaderboards do drop. So, you know, these guys are racing each other on the track. They have a really, really good chance to get a really strong finishing position overall. So we'll have to see how they go because, yeah, the skill is not... I would say the skill gap between Lobby A, B and C all the way down is pretty much nullified when it comes to the wet. It's a completely different set of circumstances, completely different driving style, and some people will be on top of it, some might not. So yeah, it's a roll of the die for this one.
Yeah, no, 100%, definitely a roll of the die. And consistency is going to play a major factor in this one, I can already tell. Let's jump into the track stats now. So we've got 5.1 Ks of racing, 15 turns around this Nurburgring GP circuit, 12 laps today, and no mandatory tyre, but there still will be a compulsory pit stop. You don't have to take fuel, but if you don't take fuel in this one, you are running a very great risk of fuel saving the entire race and potentially ruining your own race just by saving fuel. So expect pretty much everyone to be taking on fuel, probably varying levels of fuel, but definitely expect everyone to be taking on fuel throughout this one. And yeah, consistency is going to be super important for this race. So without further ado, with all the information, we're ready to go. Let's jump into the start of this race. Alright, so here we go then. Isaac Fogg on the pole, going to lead us away down towards turn 1 at a very wet Nurburgring. They are away. Everyone was advised in the driver's briefing to keep it fairly civilized going into turn 1. We didn't want any audacious moves like we saw at Monza last week. And as we move into turn 1, it looks like we're going to have a couple cars going side by side. Al Dusty having a look around the outside of OGR Stealth here. Gets a little bit loose on exit and will find himself back in 5th place now. As we look further down the pack, cars battling and jostling for position early in this one. A little bit of contact there, it looks like, between Icer Energy and CL5 Grim Death, just front to rear contact. But everyone seems to have sort of settled down now, and the wet already proving a challenge already for some of these guys, Chris, getting caught out with the slides and just aquaplaning into the braking zones.
Oh, very impressive stuff so far the start here, Isaac. Everyone seems to be pretty clean and disciplined at the moment. However, some people struggling to get that throttle application just right there on corner exit. We did see Icer Energy there coming out pretty tight here, but just couldn't get on the power right, and that is such an important element here, Isaac. And it does make the fuel numbers quite fascinating because you are driving the car completely different. You're short shifting, your throttle application is, you're going to modulate the throttle. It looks like Axaga, a top rider here in the Prime classes, yeah, just off the track, and those tyres will take a couple of corners to come back to spec. So if you do get off track here, your tire temps drop significantly, and it takes a while to get them back into the operating window. So, yeah, that's really unlucky for Saga.
Yeah, no, 100%. And everyone is on cold tyres at the start of this one, so it's a very treacherous first lap, very easy to make a mistake and easily spin out. Yellow flags ahead as well. That is Alba facing the wrong way, so another car that has gotten caught out with the wet track and sort of cold tyres at the start of this one. Yeah, it's very easy, especially coming through some of the higher speed sections, to find yourself getting sideways, getting loose, and if you're not all over it, it is very easy to lose the car. So very impressive from all these guys so far to, for the most part, keep the cars moving in the same direction and still be able to battle as close as they are. So they're doing well, as Pirate Ant and Al Dusty here jostling for position. Al Dusty was very quick in practice, didn't quite get the lap together in qualifying that he would have wanted, so he'll be looking to move up the field throughout this one, and he's currently got Pirate Ant for company right behind him.
Oh yeah, Pirate Ant pretty close there, and yeah, considering those that last chicane complex there, turns 14 and 15 there, all the way up to the main straight, and we've got sideways action there. I think that was OGR Stealth.
Whoa.
So close call there by Al Dusty to not hit up the rear end there of Stealth, but that Jaguar, who's struggling to keep those two rear tyres on the ground, and that is such an important part to make the pace here, Isaac, is throttle modulation. It's definitely easier said than done, but depending on your car, you know, corner exit is where you're making bucket loads of time and losing time as well. We're seeing the gaps between driver and driver, not just in the tenths as we used to seeing, Isaac, we're seeing it up to the seconds. So some people are really comfortable, others really struggling, but good on Stealth there to be able to hold on to that beautiful Jaguar currently running in the top 5. And we do also notice that Isaac Porsche and sorry, not Isaac, you already said he was in the lead. Irish Rebel is in 3rd place at the most. Irish Rebel doing a fine job so far this evening after a really, really strong and comfortable win at Monza the last time out. So gotta have to ask you here, Isaac, in the early running here, what's the go with strategy here? Do you try hold track position despite the conditions and the nature of the race, racing proximity with each other, or do you try undercut and try to get some clear air?
Well, that is the question, and I think, you know, a lot of these drivers will find, especially running behind other cars, you're moving water to the side. It obviously is being replaced by the time you get around the next time around, but a little bit of water is probably being dissipated by the cars in front with those wet tyres. So running behind another car at this stage may be a little bit beneficial, maybe give you just a little bit extra grip. We know we saw a couple cars in qualifying doing that, looking to get in behind other cars and just run behind them and use the water they were pushing to the side and creating a little bit more grip on the track to their advantage. But you only will get, if you're pushing at full pelt, you only get about 6 or 7 laps out of a tank of fuel around here. So if you do come in early within the next couple of laps, you are playing the risk of needing to fuel save towards the end. So it could be slightly beneficial to undercut around here. I don't think we're going to see any drivers changing tyres, so it's not going to be a matter of having fresher tyres or, you know, using tyre wear to your advantage to make the undercut work. It's going to be about whether you feel like you're going to be faster in clean air and whether that's going to, you know, pay dividends for you later on. But these top 5 seem to be sort of starting to spread out a little bit now. Al Dusty pulling away from OGR Stealth, looking to maybe mount a move on Irish Rebel, who, as you mentioned, is running really strong in 3rd position after an excellent week last week, taking out, obviously, the win in Lobby B, but also finding himself 3rd overall for the Tuesday night overall standings. So, you know, very impressive from him to not only take out the lobby win, but also find himself mixing it with the pro guys in the podium.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a strong possibility of a rinse and repeat here for these lobby B guys. So here's their best opportunity here to climb really high up the ranks, because we've seen everyone from lobby A down to lobby C. Some people struggle and others really gear into it. We did see practice sessions leading up to the round 4 race here this evening where, yeah, there was a bunch of people onto it and a bunch of people off it, and some of the people off it were quite some of the front runners running in Lobby A, Isaac. So a great opportunity here for these guys to be able to grab a really big bag of points here and push for not only a good leaderboard position overall, but Pro-Am honours as well. So you see Grim Death going around the curb just there. It's fascinating some of the lines you can take around here, Isaac. It really depends on the nature of the car and how you can get that traction car. Some cars like going high, almost like the go-kart line, the rallycross line, and getting sideways there.
Beautiful
That's
car
what I love
control.
about Yeah, that's what we love about wet racing. We absolutely love it, just trying to hold on and use the traction of the car to keep it on the track. But wow, it definitely is a completely different driving style here, Isaac. There's no crossover from dry running outside of there's a throttle, there's the brake, an Irish Rebel. Oh, we know that corner, if you're just a little bit too late on the turn in, you'll be sent into the grass there, but Irish Rebel just struggling to keep the car and sliding again. So this is really important here, Isaac. Irish, you can lose temperature in the rear, rear of the car, and if you've got no temp in those tyres, I mean, you can say goodbye to any available grip you have. So Irish is still sliding, and despite having the inside line, just can't get the power down, and Al Dusty jumps now into the podium position.
Yeah, beautiful, move from Al Dusty there. Take advantage of that and move himself into the podium places. But we do know the Porsches being a mid-engine rear-wheel drive car, they've got a lot of weight in the rear end, so they will have better drive off the corner than these front-engined rear-wheel drive cars. So the Mercs, the Supras, the Jag, the Corvette, they're all cars that are struggling for grip around here in the wet, because they don't have the same rear end weight that Porsches have, being a mid-engine car. So definitely the advantage does lie, in terms of acceleration and grip, the advantage does lie in these Porsches that we see Al Dusty driving here, this beautifully prepared Hoonigan Porsche. But it does play on your mind as a driver when you're driving these rear, like front engine cars. You've got to think about being more careful as you come out of the corner, and you watch the Porsche drivers sort of, they can floor it a lot more than what you can in your Merc or your Jag, and you sort of expect to have the same amount of grip they do coming out of the corner, and you don't always do. So it's also about taking it easy and not pushing the car too hard, because you don't want to unsettle the car and obviously overheat those tyres, or cool them down by going on the grass. So I think these guys are doing really well so far, just to keep the cars going in a straight line and moving in a forward direction, Chris.
Oh, you're absolutely no wrong about that, Isaac. And not only just, the drivetrain of the car where the engine is mounted, but it's also the torque curve. So we know the Porsche is a naturally aspirated car, so the RPM gain, in the early phase of being on the throttle doesn't climb as high as some of these V8 powered cars, some of these turbocharged cars, especially the Beamer is very guilty of that. So is the Lexus, the Mustang, the Corvette. So a lot of throttle control is required, but whereas some of these cars are not only a bit more planted, but just getting on the power, getting that traction early, the car isn't just gaining so much intense through torque, driving through those rear wheels, so you just able to get out of the corner much quicker. We've seen Al Dusty here showing that really, really well there, already has the fastest lap of the race. So now Al Dusty has been able to clear Irish Rebel, who is was struggling a little bit there a couple of laps ago. Can he take it the Porsche GT and Isaac Fogg? Because those guys are just driving away at the moment. They've got good track position, keeping it clean from what we can see. We'll have to see when those guys come into the pit stop, but already those two seem like the guys to beat so far here, Isaac.
Yeah, 100%. I think, it was all about qualifying for these guys, and, the better he qualifies. Oh, Al Dusty is wide.
Oh,
he's got on the slide. He's on the grass. And that is going to be so frustrating for him. We were just talking him up and saying what an amazing job he was doing, getting himself up into third. And he's just got a bit too loose on the exit of turn 2 there, and just found himself in the dirt. And that's what we've been talking about for the last few minutes, is just, putting too much power down too early. You can lose the car. And while it's harder to do in these Porsches, it still is very much doable. And we've seen here that Al Dusty probably just getting a little bit too eager, probably pushing a little bit too hard to try and catch the guys in front. Just found himself getting quite loose there on the exit of turn 2, and now finds himself back down in 5th. So probably very frustrating for him, Chris, but he's definitely got the pace,
sure.
Being 2 minute 19. So hopefully he can push back up.
Going a little bit wide here as well. I knew that he might have been prone here to pirate anchor, despite holding track position. I knew those tyres wouldn't be in good shape here, so hopefully he can hold the inside line here. You definitely don't want to go too wide in the dry there, let alone when it's still sliding. So this just goes to show, Isaac, if you get those tyres dirty, if you lose all of that temperature, it's like you're driving on ice, despite having the wet tyre compound on. So Al Dusty losing a bunch of positions here. So what he just probably needs to do now is just take, not drive as hard, make sure he just nails all of his markers, gets P6 back off ISO Energy there, who is serving a half-second penalty. So pretty lucky there, but yeah, it just goes to show when the tyres fall out of the window how hard it is to keep carrying on with it. So yeah, that's a fast lap of the race. We know he has pace, but consistency is just another thing here, Isaac. And not only can you spin those rear tyres, I think the camber of the road plays a big part in it. I did see he did take a bit of a narrow line exiting turn 3 there, and you know the road is on much more of an angle, so when you slide up those rears, you're just a passenger at that point. But as I'm saying that, Irish Rebel coming into pit lane now, so the first of our pit stoppers at the end of lap 5. So interesting strategy here. There was a bit of a gap in between himself and the top 2 there in Porsche GT and Isaac Fogg. So maybe looking to just change it up here a little bit at the moment and try to get some track position. Yeah, that AMG, it is known to have quite a lot of power, heavily front engine mounted car, but a bit of an underdog, Isaac. It seemed to be doing a lot better than what you'd assume, and especially in the majority of the front engine mounted car runners. It seems to be a bit of an FR Cup here for this round so far. But yeah, the AMG is no joke. It seems to be quite a half decent option, which I think has thrown a lot of people, yeah, surprised a lot of people, I'd have to say. So yeah, probably a decent choice around here, Isaac.
Yeah, no, definitely the Merc is a lot stronger around here than I think a lot of people thought it was going to be. The discussion earlier in the week obviously was around, you know, the Porsches and the Ferraris being strong, and as I say this, I just want to point out Irish Rebel does have a 3-second slowdown penalty for running over the pit line on the way into the pits. So it was a late call from him, just made a slight mistake on the way into the pits and has covered himself a 3-second slowdown penalty. We know on Gran Turismo the line is very harsh, the game is very harsh in terms of penalising you for crossing those lines. So unfortunate for him, he's running up in 3rd, and hopefully he can, you know, serve that slowdown and then just make use of some clean air to get himself back up there. But as you were saying, Chris, yeah, the Merc, a very strong choice, a bit of an underdog around here, I would say. Definitely not the car I would have picked to do well early on in the week through all the testing. I would have picked something like the Porsche to be dominating this one, and I think, you know, the Porsche is very strong, but I think it's, you know, it's not just about the car you're driving, it's also about the person who's driving the car. And you know, some drivers are good in the wet, and they have the ability and the what's the word I'm trying to look for here, the racecraft. So as we see Al Dusty get a little bit loose again, the racecraft to drive in the wet and be consistent and churn out the lap times that are needed to, you know, keep themselves competitive in the wet. And there's some drivers that just, you know, haven't had a lot of experience and, you know, are obviously wanting to get more experience, and that's what this is all about, and that's what this weekend's all about. As we see a lot of cars now in the pit lane, pretty much everyone that is yet to pit except for the first 3 cars in Isaac Fogg, Al Dusty and Pyrodant are coming in. A full tank of fuel there for Porsche GT. Not sure if he needed that with only 6 laps to go, but we'll see how that affects him. Maybe he's trying to go for the undercut on Isaac Fogg here, so we'll see how that plays out for him. But yeah, you are right, Chris. Yeah, it's not just about, it's not just about the driver or the car. Sorry, it's also about how the driver is around here and how they go in the wet as well, and their racecraft.
For sure. It's one thing to be fast over 1 lap. It's another thing to be consistent, and we're seeing consistency play a major role here in this race. We have seen Al Dusty just lose his composure a couple times there. We've seen some people get some 3-second penalties for pit lane limits as well. So now the Porsche GT has pitted, and a full tank of fuel, you are right. An interesting choice there on the refuel. So we'll have to see if Isaac decides to just run a little bit longer. He's been quite comfortable in the lead. Hasn't really had too much of a challenge from Porsche GT as we've seen. So we'll have to see how he is on fuel numbers. But you would assume maybe in the next lap or 2, maybe. But that Red Bull Boost Mobile AMG seems to be in control here quite comfortably at the moment. Just running straight 2-minute 20s there, almost nearly every lap of the race there so far, by a couple of laps. So Isaac putting on a really, really strong showing here after, unfortunately, just getting caught up in turn 1 shenanigans there at Monza, which kind of ruined his race before it even started. This is a brilliant bounce back from Isaac Fogg here in the AMG, but this might also be a good opportunity just to go up and down our grid order here, Isaac. So we've got Isaac Fogg here running in P1, Al Dusty yet to pit, I'm pretty sure, running in P2, does have the fast lap of the race, followed by Pyrodant in the Corvette. Good showing there by him in the Corvette. followed by Porsche GT, the first of our stoppers in this race at the moment. But I might just leave that there for a moment.
I just want to point out that our leader is in.
Pit lane.
So our leader is in, and Al Dusty and Pyrodent will follow him. So this will be the last of our cars that need to stop. So they're coming in with a fair bit of, or not a lot of fuel actually for Isaac Fogg and Al Dusty, but Pyrodent must have been fuel saving throughout that and finds himself with a fair bit of fuel left, so might not need to take as much fuel. So Isaac Fogg, only 76 litres on board for him. Where will he come out? Where is Porsche GT? There is Porsche GT. Isaac Fogg is into turn 1. You can see Porsche GT in the background. So Isaac Fogg taking less fuel, plenty of less fuel than Porsche GT, paid dividends to build that gap out. So Porsche GT couldn't quite make the undercut work. Probably took a little bit more fuel than he needed to. And it seems, Chris, especially when it comes to how much fuel you need to take to get to the end, that the overcut is more powerful around here.
Yeah, not wrong. And considering all things here, Isaac, despite Porsche GT taking on, like pretty much filling the car top to bottom there through his pit stop, he's actually not that far off. So he must have had a pretty good outlap here to, despite the gap and, you know, the time he lost refilling the car all the way to the top there. The gap isn't probably as chronic as otherwise it was. It's getting dicey here with some people exiting pit lane here. Got to say, Pyronent in that Corvette, an absolute banger of a strat here. Didn't have to put on nearly as much fuel, and he's actually jumped a lot of these cars, including OGR Stealth, who was running in the top 5 there momentarily as well. And looks like Grim Death has been able to make a few positions there as well, running in P6. So yeah, it looks like this pack here is a lot closer than we might have expected here. But it looks like Rusty Boy is going to have a little bit of a go on Stealth. He looks on the inside. He's going to break a lane and doesn't commit to it. Stealth tries to hold the outside line. Might be able to get on the power earlier, and sure does. So that is a really good example there of how the racing lines work in the wet. It's not over yet. These guys are still duking it out here through Schumacher S's. Can Stealth hold on? And he does. So yeah, Rusty Boy would have to roll out of it there. Otherwise, there might have been collateral damage there on the outside there of Stealth. But yeah, just a really good highlight there, Isaac, the racing lines that you can find in the wet. You've got the high lines where a bit of a go-kart line. You can get on the power a bit earlier. Because, yeah, typically just smashing the inside apex here, hitting those typical racing lines in the wet. Your corner entry is much faster, but on exit, because your car, the tyres aren't parallel to the car, much harder to get on the power, depending on the car, of course. But, yeah, classic racing by these guys. It's not over yet. Rusty's going to try and brake a little bit late, but can't get the move done. So, yeah, I mean, for my race here, Isaac, I pitted quite early and got out of all this mess because I think it's... As we're saying, it's a bit of a fine art, a bit of a nuanced skill to be able to drive in the wet. But racing in proximity and keeping racing space and trying to not clean everyone up and get overtaking moves done cleanly, very, very hard, very, very challenging.
Yeah, 100%. And as we see, Al Dusty look up the inside of BMF Pyronent here. A wonderful move from Al Dusty. BMF Pyronent's going to try and put the switchback move on him as we come down towards turn 2, but he's going to find himself on the outside. He's going to switch back to the inside yet again, so the switchback proving very popular in terms of the moves to make here, and especially in the wet. But Al Dusty, I think, just has this one for now. But yeah, you are right. And a lot of clean racing from these guys. I would like to point out as well for Rusty Boy, he is someone we typically see on a Thursday night racing in the Ferrari series. This is his debut in the GT3 series, so he's picked a hell of a week to make his debut in the GT3 series, but he's doing a wonderful job so far and battling really well with these guys up front. So he's doing a great job running in the top 10 and having some really clean battles, some really good battles with these cars, and making it interesting in the mid pack. I also can confirm, you made the comment earlier on whether Porsche GT had closed up to Isaac Fogg after those pit stops. They were just over 2 seconds apart before the pit stops, and by the time Isaac Fogg came out of the pits and they got through turn 1, the gap was 5 seconds. So the gap had pretty much doubled between first and second after that pit stop. So taking on the extra fuel for Porsche GT didn't prove to work out the way he would have wanted it to, I think. So probably a bit frustrating for him. Probably could have been a lot closer if he'd taken on just the amount of fuel he needed. But still a great effort from him to be up in P2. As we see Rusty Boy and OGR Stealth going at it again. These two, they must have magnets stuck in the back and front of their cars, because they seem to be attached bumper to bumper at the moment. They just don't seem to want to break apart, Chris.
Oh yeah, you're not wrong. These guys are putting on an absolute clinic at the moment. Really good racing by a bunch of these guys. As we were saying, the racing, defending and overtaking is quite different here in the wet. We're seeing, a few little moves on the inside and trying to get in traction early and blocking some of those lines there for the cars you're defending. But yeah, these guys are doing a ripper job. I think it's quite easy to assume that racing in the wet, especially in these cars, can be absolute chaos. We've seen in the drive, Monza, turn 1, there was a few incidents over our last race at round 3. So the Lobby B, Lobby A, or Lobby C, there's a lot of clean racing. And as far as I can report at the moment, Isaac, there has been no stewards reports so far for all these races. So Rusty getting a little bit hairy on the inside. Him and you're not wrong, him and Stealth are magnet for magnet at the moment. So yeah, I mean, the racing's been really good here, Isaac. I think in the wet here, he's bringing out the best of everyone and maybe forcing a few people here just to take their time and be a little bit more patient. So 100%. Yeah, it's really, really good to see.
Yeah, no, definitely 100%. And I know the discussion was had after the races on Tuesday night of it was the cleanest race we've had all year. No one's really made any stewards reports, as you said. Do we do wet races for the rest of the season? Because it seems to be when we race the cleanest is when the track is soaking wet, because I think everyone's a little bit scared.
If that's the go.
I think everyone's a little bit scared of getting near each other to make incidents. As we see CFR Grimdeath, he got a little bit loose on exit, and he's invited himself into this battle with Rusty Boy and OGR Stealth, who are still glued at the hip in this one. And OGR Stealth, he gets a little bit too wide there and finds himself now under threat from Madrick. He found himself just a little bit too wide, trying to take that wide line through the Dunlop curve. And, you just touch the gravel a little bit on the outside there, and it just pulls the car right up. So it'd be frustrating for him. You just, the gravel around here, as soon as you touch it, just pulls the car straight up.
Yeah, absolutely. Look how many cars are in this pack now. Isaac's invited Madrick here in that classic GT 500 Supra into this as well as Magic here, and Icer Energy is in here as well. So that's really unfortunate for Stealth there. And yeah, Rusty Boy really benefited from that. It looks like Grim Death is now taking P6 off Rusty Boy here. So I was just mentioning, Rusty Boy following those guys at the perfect brake marker. Saw that Stealth went off the road, but then obviously knew we had to brake a little bit. Was there contact? Just a little bit of contact there, Rusty. Opposite lock there. Full hold on the steering wheel, keeping on track there. But yeah, that AMG just struggling for traction there on corner exit. But wow, that was I'd have to say full lock there, full brake, maybe handbrake there as well. So that was that reminds me of that classic Scott McLaughlin dive in the Volvo, the Gold Coast 600 a few years ago when he had the full lock there, getting past Mark Winterbottom. So that was really, really good stuff there by Rusty Boy to get. And OGR Stealth definitely wants to get P9 and try to make some spots back here, but just rolls out of it. So yeah, wow. I mean, absolute great car control here from these guys. Meanwhile, these guys are battling it out. It looks like that top two are just absolutely running away with it right now.
Yeah, no, definitely they are. You can see the gaps that they have. You can see there is Isaac Fogg, the red dot on your screen. The next blue dot you can see is Porsche GT. He's now the red dot on your screen. And then Al Dusty back in third. So they have spread out. Al Dusty quite close with Pirate Ant still. About a second between those guys and only a couple seconds back to Irish Rebel. So he's still in the hunt with only 2 laps to go, he's still in the hunt for a P3 if these guys in front maybe get caught up in a battle. So definitely great race between these guys, and Irish Rebel still in the hunt for that P3. But podium on, and it's wet, anything can happen, mistakes can still happen. It's not over until you cross that finish line at the end of the race. But this battle here is what we have been watching. Rusty Boy now finds himself in a comfortable P6 for now. Grimdeath behind him, and then Madrick, Icer Energy, and OGR Stealth's just fallen off the back a bit now. Finds himself, must be, getting a bit too difficult, or not too difficult, but it's wet. The tires are starting to wear, and I think he's just, struggling. As we see Rusty Boy going slowly So not sure what's happened there. He was in 6th. He's going slowly. He might have had a moment. We'll see if we can find out what happened
curse
there.
there, Isaac.
Commentators
curse there, mate.
We just said how well he was doing. Yeah, we just said how well he was doing.
Oh, that's really unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate, but only a lap to go now, Chris, as our leader has crossed the line to start our final lap. So we're getting on towards the final lap. What are your thoughts on this race so far? So just getting a replay of what happened to Al Dusty. So we had a little bit of slip coming out of the Dunlop curve, coming through the Schumacher S's. Just gets a little bit sideways, and oh, it's hard to catch that one. Frustrating for him, just getting a little bit loose on the curb, coming through the Schumacher S's, and not much you can do about that one. Very frustrating for him, but he'll keep pushing on. He's in P5, so he's going to try and bring a good result home from here. Just here with Rusty Boy, so coming out of the Dunlop curve up towards the Schumacher S's, and it looks like he may have a similar issue. Gets wide on the curb and then just loses control of the car and runs wide. So the car just aquaplaning in the wet there. Once you get into that gravel, it just slows the car right down. So very unfortunate for him, but driven exceptionally well so far this race, and hopefully he can just bring it home from here in 10th place. Maybe fight OGR Stealth for that 9th place.
Oh, well, these guys, in this mid-pack here, especially Rusty Boy, OGR Stealth, and all these guys are putting on an absolute clinic, but just goes to show how important consistency is. Al Dusty, the fast lap of the race, but hasn't capitalized that on to, being able to contend for the win here. So two very different elements to racing in the wet here. So yeah, last lap now, when Al Dusty is, despite a couple of offs there and a few mistakes, has been able to hold a P. Grim Death, big old dive there. Maybe just got on the brakes a little bit too late there. Gets into gravel as well. A bit of contact there with Madrick. That was a half decent recovery considering all things, and Nicer Energy is going to capitalise that on as well. So if you're a betting man, Isaac, I wouldn't be making any predictions right now because it's well and truly not over here. But as I said before, and I will say again, the action-packed racing is right here, but Isaac Fogg and Porsche GT, as a matter of fact, as well, putting on an absolute clinic, and I think those two guys have a really strong possibility of getting a really strong finish on the overall leaderboards, and that is including the pro drivers in Lobby A.
That's 100%. They've run clean all race. They've done a really good job, and as has everyone. But I think being so far out in front and just being clean and avoiding trouble, as we see Grim Death getting wide again, they have the opportunity to finish strong in the overall standings. I will point out, we'll find out what happened, but Al Dusty was running in 3rd and now finds himself down in 5th, so maybe another spin there from him. But we're going to cut on to our race leader now. Here he is. We haven't seen much of him all race because he's been out in front. He's pulled away and just gapped the field from the start. He qualified on pole. He's done it all feeling unwell as well. So Ridwan last week was unwell, ran a good race. Isaac Fogg this week's unwell, run a good race as well. And he's done an excellent job in the AMG Mercedes. You can see the lights flashing there. He knows how much this means to him. He had a troubled week last week in Monza, but he comes across the line to win here at the Nurburgring. Porsche GT is going to come around the final corner, and after winning Lobby C last week, he's going to find himself in the podium for Lobby B, so a great result for him. BMF Pyrodan, he kept his nose clean. He ran a great race in the Corvette.
The podium places here.
And finds himself in the podium places. So,
yeah,
wonderful race for him.
Pull there by Pyrodan. Oh, yeah, for sure. Something must have happened to Irish and Al Dusty as well. But, yeah, that's a cracking race there by Pyrodan to take P3 there, followed by Irish Rebel and Al Dusty. And he's definitely not over in the back here. You see Magic, Ice Energy, and OGR Stealth competing for the back end of the place. It's just there as well. And definitely not over on the back here as well. Isaac, I'm pretty sure you'd be happy to not be messing around with these guys. And yeah, that's the biggest, most of the pack here finished now already, Isaac. And yeah, these guys just rounding up the end of the field. But wow, what a race there, and what an announcement there to finish to get the leaders across the line there, Isaac, mate. That was top tier stuff, mate. Got to commend you there, man. I was starting to get goosebumps in my arm just there. So that was a cracking job there, mate. And as we see, Aksaga, not much screen time this evening here for Aksaga. Did have an incident on the opening lap, and his race was pretty much over from there on. So fortune there for Aksaga, but damn, how the tyres could turn. Isaac, race winner 1 week before, pretty much in a position that Arc Saga is in right now. So damn, it's one thing to have a dodgy race, but to bounce back in the way that these leaders did in Isaac Fogg and Porsche GT, I mean, wow, that's got to feel good regardless.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's been a difficult round for both of those guys. They would have, you know, Porsche GT obviously going back to Lobby C last week. Isaac Fogg being taken out turn 1 last week would have been frustrating for him, and I think it's been really good for both of those guys to come back this week even stronger. You know, Porsche GT, he took out the win in Lobby C last week, but obviously wanted to prove his place and his pace in Lobby B this week, and the rain is a perfect opportunity for new names and faces to get up the top, and it continues our trend as well of a different winner at all across the lobby, across this Lobby B for all the races this season, which is really good. That, you know, it's so competitive that week in, week out, we can have someone different taking out the win on this one. But I've got to ask you, Chris, just before we jump into the race results here, who is your driver of the day?
Oh, geez, here, mate. You've put me in the tough spot here, but I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what the haters say, mate. Our race winner in Isaac Fogg's lights to checkered flag, and after an absolute disaster of a race there at the previous one at Monza in round 3, getting involved with, in a racing incident and pretty much off the main pack before lap 1 was over, to bounce back and finish first overall for this one, and quite comfortably too. I mean, that's if that's not 0 to 100, then I don't know what is, mate. So yeah, gotta give it to you. I don't care, bias, commentator, whatever, man. That was an absolute cracking drive, and I think I might need to get some racing lessons off you, mate, how to drive in the Racing in the Wet for Dummies 101.
Well, I certainly think if either of us are the biased commentator, it's definitely going to be me. But no, definitely.
I'll look forward to the comments from others, mate, by the time this one drops. So
can't wait to read the comments.
You've been put in a
YouTube.
tricky position, mate. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But no, absolutely deserved, mate. And yeah, great race by not only yourself there, but Porsche GT, as we did mention before, was dropped back to Lobby C, comes back into Lobby B this week and puts on the podium. And an Al Dusty, bit of a tricky race there, but managed to get a top 5 position as well. So yeah, these Pro-Am guys, they're not playing for sheep stations. He's coming really, really tight up there with that top 5, top 6 pack for Pro-Am honours. So yeah, I like I said, I wouldn't be a betting man for this race, but when it comes to the end of the season for Pro-Am overall honours, Isaac, I don't even know where to even start thinking about who can take it right now, because the gaps and the skill, there's nothing in it at the moment, that's for sure.
That's right. It's super close, and it's something that I can't wait to break down for the round wrap up this week. To sit down and have a look at how the championship tables are shaping up and where everyone sits in terms of the gaps to each other and the overall standings. But for now, we're going to jump into our race results. So Isaac Fogg by almost 12 seconds over Porsche GT. A great race from those guys. Another 11 seconds back to Pyronane in third, who started 7th, so we should mention that that's a wonderful result from him to go from 7th to 3rd in this one. Irish Rebel comes home 4th, Al Dusty 5th after a couple small mistakes. He was one of the fastest cars on track, but it's just all about that consistency, and comes home 5th, so a strong result for him. Definitely could have been up higher, but still finished quite strong. Madrick in 6th, Icer Energy 7th, OGR Stealth comes home 8th, CLFR Grimdeath 9th, Rusty Boy 10th, Mr. Awesome 11th, Alba 12th, and Aksaga just obviously didn't seem to mesh with the rain and the wet conditions this week. He'll look to bounce back next week at Bathurst, which is going to be an absolute cracker. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for tuning in, Chris. Thank you so much for jumping in the commentary box yet again with me this week. Really appreciate it. We can't wait to break down all the action on Sunday for the round wrap-up. Until then, I've been Isaac. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.